I am here today with my mentor, my friend and colleague, Aimée Lyndon-Adams. Would you like to say hello, Aimée?
Hello, everybody. Such a pleasure to be with you, Megan, and with you all. Such an interesting topic we're going to be chatting about.
Mhm. So I'm so delighted that Aimée is my first interview or conversation. This was an inspired idea I had maybe a month ago where I wanted to celebrate the important people in my life that have helped me both discover and navigate how to utilize my intuitive gifts. So I'm excited to share this conversation around intuitive gifts and the ascension journey I have a few intentions for it. So first is to celebrate these connections in my life that have helped me with this journey. Not just to discover, but to know how to safely utilize these gifts. And I want to normalize this conversation. I want intuitive gifts to be something that we can talk about, maybe even at family dinners. How about that?
Yeah, baby.
So that it becomes easier for more people to learn about their gifts and utilize their gifts. The third intention I have is to provide lived lessons learned to support others, to know that there's not a nice, tidy way that most people do this, that we're all figuring it out by the seat of our pants. And the last intention is that these conversations ultimately support heart-centered living in community.
Yeah.
So, to give more context for Ame, again, I just love that this is my first conversation because Ame came into my life very soon after I discovered my intuitive gifts, and she has been a consistent friend, source of support, and leader by example. She is also a phenomenal example of someone who shows integrity and what that means. And that inspires me so much. So she has many resources to share beyond this conversation, which I'll ask her to share more about. But again, I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you today on May.
Thank you so much. And I'm really so honored to be your first interview. I know it'll be the first of many, and I couldn't agree with you more that let's have these topics more accepted in everyday conversation. I think you and I have both grown up with people going, "Oh, she's woo-woo," or you know, just dismissed us as out there, where in truth, it's all backwards. We've actually been, trained from birth to not be able to connect and own with who we truly are. We've been imprinted with other people's beliefs. We've been dumbed down. We've been deliberately coached and, often not kindly in terms of not being too big, too loud, or being told that we're on the other side, we're not enough,
Mhm.
we're playing too small. It just felt for so many of us that, especially those of us who are more evolved in the journey of life, where you start to recognize that you are an energy being, no less a spiritual energy being, and that you have a set of gifts that were given you to experience the earth plane with. And so, what a crime that we've all been, as it were, talked out of them.
Yeah.
And now I think the time is coming on pretty fast and pretty strong, where that will no longer be the case. So this, and hopefully your interviews will help to create that new space.
Hopefully perpetuating. Yes.
Yeah.
So, do you want to share just a little bit about what your background is, or even present day, how you think of yourself?
Goodness. Well, let's do a little bit about the background. You probably can hear the accent. I was born in England. I've been in this country, wow, for almost 50 years now. So probably the accent's not going to get any better. But other than that, it was very clear to me growing up in England that that was not my home. I didn't feel connected with my family, as many of you have not in this life. And in fact, I was molested by my father. So it was really a very challenging time for me as a child. And I withdrew, I think, into a kind of inner life that was richer than the outer life because I couldn't really connect with too many people on the outside. When I found some early programs of hatha yoga, and I became a vegetarian at 19, and then found transcendental meditation, the world suddenly opened up for me, and I realized that I wasn't just a physical body. And that really started to dramatically change my worldview. And I also learned at that time about the Age of Enlightenment happening within my lifetime. And that was extraordinarily exciting. Shortly after I got to America, I learned all about the power of affirmations from Sandra Ray's work. And again, I started to see how I'd been programmed with the negative and how we always make sure that our beliefs come true as human beings. So if I believed I was unworthy, I would attract people into my life to tell me I was unworthy. At that time, I didn't know I'd been abused. All I knew that was subconsciously I was radiating out this energy of, I deserve to be punished. I deserve to be abused. And so I would attract more and more abusers. And so this continued, although I would say at about my mid 30s, I met up with a person who was teaching all about energy management. And that was really the very big shift of all,
Mm.
because I think up until then, I hadn't realized how much my energy was out of my body and not in my body. I was not allowed to have sovereignty over my body as a child. And so it was safer to be out of my body. And, actually, I used to go play with my guides, who I'll talk about a little bit later, and, be totally safe and happy and, could come back in. And obviously, as a child, how do you reconcile your abuser as your father, who must be obeyed? It actually helped me navigate that dichotomy. But once I learned about the grounding and centering and how when you're actually in your body, you are automatically connected to your intellect, to your intuition, to your feelings, and to your innate body wisdom and strength. It took me forever to learn how to keep my energy in my body, it seemed. No sooner had I got my energy in that I would be lifting off out and around. It took me until I realized I preferred to have my energy in my body.
Mm.
That was the shift over. So from there, right around that time, five guides arrived. And you can imagine my surprise. I worked with these five for, I would say, about 3 years. And then I decided one day when I was trying to decide whether to shift my career to have my very first channeled reading. And imagine my surprise when the channel was channeling Hilarion, and Hilarion immediately began by saying, "I'd like to acknowledge the presence of your five guides."
Yeah. Yeah.
The fabulous five, as they call themselves. I was like, how did you? I mean, he had me at hello. And he said, their energy is so powerful that with your permission and theirs, I just like to put them in this kind of energy field so they don't interfere with my reading for you, but they're be present with you and able to track everything we're saying. So there was no doubt in my mind from that point on that guides are real. And
Mm.
I had five guides for many years until I was working in a multimedia company. And, on a career background, I've specialized in customer service, corporate service, and the integration of sales and service. I've also been a consultant in a training company and trained executives on coaching. I was the director of service for Charles Schwab nationwide, and before that, Citibank. So I have a strong a strategic background, which I think has helped with my clients to actually see that I call myself spiritual in a real world. So real grounded spiritual guidance. But at that time, I was working as a partner in a multimedia company, and I was told seven more guys wanted to join my team. And they couldn't join because my field was too chaotic.
Mm.
And I knew why it was chaotic. We were being managed by a CEO who just loved to play right on the edge and keep everybody guessing and, wouldn't show up on time for meetings and would be writing presentations on the plane to the client. It was absolutely chaotic. And the guys were very clear with me, you can, keep this job. I mean, I was being paid about 10,000 a month from the profits, or you can resign, and as soon as your field settles down, the guides will start to arrive. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. I didn't even know at the time having 12 ascended master guides is a real honor. I wasn't aware that they were ascended masters or that having a council of 12 was meaningful. I just thought, ooh, seven more guys. Imagine what I could do with that. And
Yeah.
so that's how it happened. Within 10 days of resigning, the first five arrived, and then within another 10 days, the 11th guide arrived, and another 10 days, the 12th guide arrived. Ever since then, they've called themselves the wise beyond wise. And it's just an absolute joy. I can't say I feel never alone. I feel seen, loved, supported, partnered. My clients feel the love of the guides, the incredible level of healing work that they do on me, on my loved ones, on my clients. It's an absolute joy. I'm thrilled beyond measure, like the absolute highlight of my life.
There's so much here. So you dove right into it, the guys. I want to know if you can share more about what it feels like. What does it mean? How do you engage with them? What is that experience like for you?
So I guess I would say that mostly I feel their presence. And that's because, we all have different ways of being able to work with energy. Some people see energy. So actually a very tiny percentage of the population that are visual with their gifts. I understand it's less than 5% of the population. My primary gift is kinesthetic. So I can actually feel their presence. I feel it as a shudder of energy going up my arm. Or if I have a get, I realize what they're saying to me. It literally shoots up my spine. I felt energy coming out of the top of my head or dancing on top of my head. That's one of the ways they get my attention. So it's a very kind of feeling process. Now, very, very occasionally, I will actually hear words. I think we have a secondary way of getting information, and mine would be auditory. And that would
Mhm.
just, I just one little tiny story. It was when I was at Citibank, and we'd get in at 6 in the morning and we'd still be working at 6 at night. And around 6 o'clock at night, I was finishing up a memo and I heard this clearly in my head: go home now. And I said, no, I just need to finish this. Let me finish this. And I go home now. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. And then my back went out. And so, I really get they have the ability to get your attention. A friend of mine this is years ago, but he was working underneath his car, and he was, working with the mechanics of the car. He saw a pair of feet, which really surprised him from his vantage point because he knew he hadn't heard anybody arrive. And he heard the words, "Get out now." And he just scrambled out, and the car toppled down. He would have been crushed. So guides really, first of all, their intention is to partner. They will never tell you what to do, which can be very frustrating if you're still
Aside from get out
investigating.
now.
They won't because they tell you this is your life to live. It's not our life, but we will give you thoughts for your consideration and your choice. So that's what they do. They will give you things to think about. What my guides and I have decided, again, over time, because there are different ways, of being able to work with them. Some people prefer to work with an oracle in conjunction with the guides. So, use of the I Ching or the Tarot or the runes, or there are infinite numbers of
Yeah.
cards. As you know, you have your own card deck. So, this is one wonderful way that just shortcuts the issue and allows you to really learn to trust the counsel. I will say that I never, ever consult the guides without doing my grounding and centering process first. And I feel that that is really a way of respecting the guides and the energy to show up fully present and being in my body, ready for the council. Um, Learning the tarot was the way that I was always interested in the tarot. When I started learning it, the guides and I actually developed what I call a shortcut tarot, which is a very fast way of being able to use the entire deck to get your answers 1, 2, 3. So simple. So simple that we actually recorded it, and it is available if any of you want to learn that. It's on my website. And I will say that taking a developing intuition class was another big help because, I would say that in very, very simple terms, when you ask a question, any of you, whenever you ask a question of yourself, or just inside your head, uh, there is a voice that answers it immediately, and that voice is a kind voice. That's the voice of your intuition. Notice how many times, almost always, That voice is drowned out by a negative voice. That's the voice of your negative ego. Your negative ego always wants there to be a problem and is never happier than when that problem is you. So it's going to talk you out of it. And so, I think these are the things that have helped me the most with the guides, getting grounded, recognizing that, we can use a system of knowledge to communicate quickly, effortlessly, accurately, and consistently. And also recognizing the voice of the intuition is really, really important.
Yeah, I think that is, I know the biggest stumbling block that I had, and I would assume that would be hard for others too, when you're first starting with this exploration or even opening up to the idea that there's more to this life, uh, is just getting beyond and developing the trust of what is my mind versus my heart or the ego. And so to take a step back, I want to define what we even mean by intuitive gifts, because after doing some writing with my own team of guides for the inner garden, they described that yes, we celebrate our five senses, but really it's not like there's a sixth sense, there's more like 18 senses we have.
Yeah.
And the intuitive gifts really are just an expanded way of perceiving and receiving information in what was ultimately a combination of these senses, different ways of feeling in our body. And I learned in your first class that I took with you in the inner compass that, there were four main categories of clairaudience: is the clear hearing, the clairsentience, the clear feeling, clear cognizance of the clear knowing, and the clairvoyance, the clear seeing. So I'm wondering too, I mean, you just said you took a class about learning more about your intuition, but before you connected with your guides, were you already aware of having more of this expanded perception or experience? Or what was
I
it
would
like to be in your body?
Yeah, I would say, it was right around the same time that I learned the grounding and centering and to bring my energy into my body, as I was taking these energy management classes and learning about my intuition. I must say that, it was all new and
Mhm.
thrilling. It gave me a different way of thinking about living my life. And I, I, I would say I'm still at that point now, 35 years later, that I'm aware that um, we're letting go of life as we've known it at this time. That we've all been born into a lower frequency energy than actually we're used to. Between lifetimes, we're in a very high frequency energy. And then when we come, back to Earth for another life, it's a bit of a shock to realize you can't just manifest your reality anymore. I want an apple, and boom, here it is. It is a shock. And I think, too, that as I mentioned earlier, we've learned how to manage life in this lower frequency,
Mhm.
how to um, how to actually survive. Not, I would say succeed, because many people would say, well, I've succeeded, and you could say, I've succeeded. But really, is it success when to succeed you had to separate out your head and your heart?
Mhm.
Had to honor the masculine principles of intellect and going out there and getting the bacon and bringing it home, as opposed to the other skills that every single one of us have, whether we're in a male body or in a female body. those of intuition, of the heart, of the feelings, the sensations. And I think we haven't really lived our lives fully on earth until those two aspects of us, you could call them, the divine feminine and the divine masculine, come together in sacred union inside. And then whatever is happening inside, have you noticed how it gets reflected back to you on the outside? So all this upset that we're seeing now is the outflow of all of our inner confusion. But as we start to integrate the head and the heart and the male and the female inside and start working with those energies consciously together, we will find that we are doing much better, much happier, much more content, much more effective, but also the reflection that comes back to us from the outer world is going to be similar.
Yeah, this is, I mean, another way that we can talk about this is the ascension journey that we all have the invitation, and I think we're all participating in, whether we consciously know it or not, just to be alive at this time on Earth. And this is one of the definitions that my guides shared with me, that ascension is the process of releasing that which does not serve you on the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual levels, and continually reaching for that which does. And that the ascension journey does result in expanded consciousness and higher vibrational frequencies, ultimately enabling you to live from a heart-centered place and express your authentic self with joy and love. Actually, that was one of the first books that I read after I started thinking about myself as an energetic being or a spiritual being, have a physical experience, was a Carolyn Myss book, Anatomy of the Spirit, where I learned first about chakras. That was the first time I heard about that. But that was the first time I was introduced to this idea of ascending through your chakras and expanding your consciousness as you ultimately learn more about yourself and how to live in alignment with your highest self who's in the light. Um, so you've woven together a few of the questions here that you've shared about how you experience your intuitive gifts.
Yeah.
You shared at what point in your life they emerged. And then, I mean, aside from knowing that grounding and centering was so central to your practice of connecting with your intuition and your guides, what other ways have you supported yourself and in these gifts being something that you could utilize every day?
Well, I think that as gifts start to unfold, sharing them with the right people is important. I've learned the hard way um,
Mm.
that not everyone is on this path at the same level on this path. We're all on the path, as you pointed out, absolutely. But one of the things that I learned in my journey was, I call it the evolution of the souls. How does the evolve over many, many lifetimes? And there are 5 soul levels, starting with infant soul, and then there's baby soul, and then young soul, and then mature soul, and then old soul. And each soul age has 7 levels to it, which is not to imply 7 lifetimes. It's as many lifetimes as it takes for you to learn the levels. But an infant soul is really still learning about survival. The infant soul lifetimes are often nicknamed kill or be killed. And,
Mm.
there are still a few places on Earth where there are infant souls, but not so many because we have evolved past that largely. Once you're through the infant soul levels, you come to baby soul, and baby soul, having just learned how to survive, is very interested in learning how to stay safe. And so baby souls really want to join organizations where they're told, this is what to do, this is how to belong. If you do these things, you'll fit in, you'll have that sense of belonging. And so baby souls really like to follow the rules. And then young souls are the next stage, and young souls is when ambition arises. And the thing with young souls is they are ambitious, hugely ambitious, and want success. Unfortunately, infant, baby, and young souls don't know that they're spiritual energy beings. And so the young soul wants success at any price, willing to pay any price to get it. So not a lot of integrity in those soul ages. Lot of positioning and bravado and interest in status and all those things, which, we can see so much of in the world. Once you've completed young soul, however, you switch to mature soul. And it's at the mature soul level that you start waking up and you realize that actually feelings are important. So the young soul doesn't honor feelings, baby soul or infant soul. Young soul ridicules people with feelings, as we see all the time in the newspapers. But mature soul grapples with understanding that our feelings are actually a gift, that the feelings don't arise for no reason. You don't get resentful for no reason. You don't get angry for no reason. You get angry because someone is dissing you, and usually you get resentful because you said yes when you wanted to say no. And so the feelings actually have vital information. And instead of dismissing them, if we allow sufficient time to feel into them, we always bring up the gold. There is always an incredible message. And I will say that, the first 5 levels of mature soul are some of the most difficult lifetimes for souls to go through, because you tend to look unstable, you tend to be surrounded by people who don't understand you. It's why so many of our early mature souls are on antidepressants. The last 2 levels of mature soul, you've really graduated, you understand feelings are a gift, and now you want, for the very first time, to do life on your own terms. So our latter mature souls are often seen as, dropouts, but they're doing life on their own terms, trying to live off the grid on their own values or whatever it is. And that brings us to the last soul age, which is old soul. And the first 5 levels of old soul are all devoted to loving yourself. And, it sounds absurd that we would leave that until last, but actually it is the hardest of all to learn to love and accept yourself. And, I've learned since that the universe cannot partner you the way it would want to if you don't love yourself, because there has to be a frequency match. And so the universe has so much love for you. And if you're going, no, I don't deserve it, I don't deserve it, it can't heap upon you your rewards. And so it takes us 5 levels to learn Old Soul. And then the last 2 levels are, for getting ready to cycle off and wanting to leave a legacy and kind of finishing up your agenda. You've been around the whole wheel of life. So why did I share all that? It's because, be careful who you share your most precious gifts with. If you're going to share them with someone who's in just into following the rules, they're going to make you wrong. If you're sharing them with someone who doesn't believe in energy or feelings or spirit or anything, you're going to be crushed. So, really be wise. I think for myself, I learned to let things blossom and flower and get some results before I started talking about them. But that's the value of being in a class where you can actually talk to other people about what's coming up for you. But other than that, I would say that the biggest responsibility, if you will, on my side, to nurture these gifts is one, to honor them, myself, not dismiss them, but to really treat them as the incredible gifts they are. And two, to not let myself get too tired, because when I'm tired, I'm off. I'm off
Mhm.
energetically. I'm not connected anymore to my real truth. Everything kind of gets dulled down. So I definitely have a responsibility to take care of myself. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. I'm so glad to hear the explanation of the soul levels too, because
Oh,
I
good.
remember the first time I learned about that, I just felt like I had so much more compassion for for all of us in this spiral that we're all on.
I know. Have
Um,
you ever wondered? I mean, I've really wondered about certain things, like why do we all obey the traffic signals? I mean, think about it. We're all at majorly different levels of consciousness, and yet there are certain agreements that, I mean, I realize there are some people that don't, but mostly we all do. But we're
Social
in a
norms.
world where everyone is different. Everyone has their own inner truth. And so that's important, I think, because we need to respect where one another is at, as well as where we're at. Yeah.
That's also another thing I think is really challenging as one is first discovering their intuitive gifts because it's like you have to believe it to see it, or you have to feel it to know that it's real, or it's hard to talk about something that you are experiencing on a feelings level, or your perceptions and to convey that to another person is so challenging, and to
Yeah.
know that it's very likely that they'll experience their expanded perceptions in different ways. So it feels a bit unfair um, to have this, what feels like magical support and access to support, be so personally tuned.
Yeah. 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 No, I agree. I agree. And it's just part of really the mystery of life. And we get plonked down here. There's nobody who says, here's your handbook on being human. Here's the way it works between you and spirit and so on. Wouldn't that be wonderful? It's just we've had to figure it out ourselves. And of course, this lifetime is like no other lifetime we've ever had because of this ascension opportunity. And yeah, not everyone signed up for it. There'll be many people who actually choose not to and just cycle off at the end of their lives and don't return to the earth plane to continue their evolution because, we'll have graduated into a higher frequency than they're capable of sustaining. No harm, no foul, and no judgment or guilt. There's something for everyone in this universe. And, the truth is, we get an infinite number of opportunities to do better next time. It's very rare that, anyone actually is so dark and so evil and so clear they're not growing that the universe has to come up with another plan rather than giving them another chance in a body after they've chosen again and again and again to do evil deeds. Um, I was told, that one option for the universe is to turn them back into a grain of sand and for them to start their evolution again, all over again. So even with that, think about the infinite mercy of everybody gets to to make this journey one way or another, however long it takes. It's quite remarkable, really.
Yeah, it's not something that my mind can wrap itself around, really, but just marvel at, wonder at. Um, One more question of my original questions here. What words of encouragement do you have for people who are consciously and intentionally on this journey to strengthen their heart listening skills and connect and be in their body?
Well, the first thing I would say is, and again, it's a reminder, because you actually do know, but you've been preparing for this lifetime for many, many lifetimes. So even though it feels all new and all different and oh my God, no, you've actually been prepared for it. And
Mm,
so, understanding what we're actually trying to do, I think, is of paramount importance. And that's really, that as I kind of intimated earlier, everything you've learned in this life and in so many of your past lives, you've learned in this lower frequency that we call 3D or the third dimension. You learned it in 3D for 3D. And so the process of ascension is not only that your physical body is releasing its old form that was needed to live in the third dimension and transmuting into a much more high frequency form known as a light body to live in the higher frequency coming in the fifth dimension. Um, but also, we realize that everything we learned. So we learned beliefs, we learned how to think and to prioritize the intellect over the heart. Uh, all of your relationships are based in this lower frequency. All of your habits, all of your intentions. I mean, it is soup to nuts across. And so some of the most difficult things that we're also doing is what I call completing karmic contracts. Now, I think most of you listening understand that karma is simply, an equal and opposite energy arising from any energy that you put out into the world. So, in the past, karma could take a long time to come back. You could actually get away with it, but then the next life, here it comes. Payment is required. This lifetime, I have found, in working with the guides and with clients, it's almost all about not allowing another person to mistreat you yet
mm,
again. And the karmic completion is as simple as saying no. I'm not going to allow you to treat me that way. Can start by setting boundaries, and then it can have consequences if the boundaries are not followed. But, many of us have moved through, as it were, a whole cast of characters this lifetime. And if you don't understand why you're doing that, it would be easy to judge yourself as, someone who, isn't willing to do the work. But actually, it's the exact opposite. When I think of my life, not only did I leave England, but I've worked and lived in a host of other countries. I've had so many different jobs, many of which I resigned right at the upper higher levels of them when I realized that now I'm playing with a group of senior managers and uh, there's no connection between me and them. There's no integrity match, and this is not a place for me. I've also left homes and, of course, relationships and marriages. But when I look back, rather than being this fickle person, I really do see that I had the integrity to live my own values and not be persuaded to lower the bar in order to have a job. And even in my marriages, I wasn't willing to be mistreated yet again. So it's been a lot of letting go. And I realize with every letting go, I get lighter and I feel stronger and more certain of who I am and what I want. So, I would encourage you that if you're going through some difficulties, to really look and see, is this an old pattern that you keep attracting over and over again? Is it time for you to say no to that and complete it? The other advice I have is about rest. And I don't think we can make this transition without really changing the rhythm of how we live our life. I will own up that, when I was in corporate America, I worked 12, 14 hours a day, and it was discouraged even to take the weekends off. It was like running a marathon with never being able to rest, never being able to rest. And if you think about not only have you been working that hard, many of you have families that you also are raising, elderly parents that you're taking care of, your own self-care. I mean, there's an enormous amount of responsibilities that each of us carry, let alone talking about our agreements with the universe and our contracts with the universe. So I think we've gotten to the point on Earth where prioritizing the masculine energies through being in this era of patriarchy has really led to both men and women being utterly exhausted.
Mhm.
And the body is working 24/7 around the clock, literally rewiring and reshaping the workings of your body. So, really, even our sleep, I'm sure everyone listening would agree, sleep is not what it used to be. You don't wake up as refreshed as you used to be. And so, scheduling time for rest is absolutely of paramount importance. And one beautiful tip I have is to play with yoga nidra. Yoga nidra is a form of yoga that is not exercise oriented. You'll be pleased to know it actually encourages you lying flat on your back and being guided by an instructor on a tour of your body. And as you bring your attention to different parts of your body, you find yourself entering a state of rest that's twice as deep as the deepest point of sleep. But not only does your body rest, but your mind rests from thinking, and you experience what they call full body consciousness. I've been doing this practice now for actually over 400 days consecutively to and the app is called Insight Timer, and it's free. And you can do a yoga nidra for, just a few minutes, or for, 20 or 30 minutes, or for 40 minutes or longer. There's something for everyone on their free site. So I don't think we can do this without deep rest. And then finally, I would say this, that we are, in a sense, being reborn. Because you see, if you take this seriously and realize that everything you learned about yourself, your own self-image, your belief system, how you live your life, what's important to you, what you say, what you do, everything, if you realize that that was all designed for this lower frequency, and now we're letting that go, then we're really being reborn with no past, no baggage, and no limitations. So it's really utterly thrilling. We've never done this before in any of our lifetimes. We're on the adventure of a lifetime.
Stepping into the unknown, one step at a time.
Yes, we are.
Well, speaking of deep rest too, Ame, do you want to pause or do you have two more questions in you or how are you
Yeah,
feeling?
yeah. Let's keep going. I feel
Okay.
energized by our conversation.
Okay. Um, these were questions that were specific to what I know about some of your background and how you've helped me too, with some of the sessions I've had with you. But what is your understanding of dark energies and
Mm,
how to best move forward in developing one's intuitive gifts safely?
yeah. Yeah, this is an aspect of my work, and it's an aspect of my work that seems to be coming to the forefront in this past couple of years. Um, Dark energy can take many different forms. I would just say, in the very simplest of terms, dark energies resist moving on to the light. They don't want to go to the light because they know that the jig will be up if they get to the light. So they try to resist moving on to the light, and they do that by finding a host in a human physical body. And they usually look for a host that they can slip into that won't be detected, like someone with an anger management problem or on antidepressants, for example. They won't notice that they feel worse with the energies coming in. So that's one form. Those are called dark negative energy attachments. And, cosmic law says that once seen, once identified, they are not allowed to stay in their temporary home, and they must go onto the light. So I've been taught a way to move them onto the light. There are other energies that have been shaped into the form of an implant, a dark chip, or a device. And they have been used to prevent people from their ascension process. They've also been used to prevent people from fulfilling their purpose. The curious aspect of this part of the conversation is that I've actually discovered that some of us actually chose to put these devices in our own chakras in past lives because we were just sick of being tortured or persecuted or shunned or chased out of town or burnt at the stake. And so we put the device in to prevent us from using our own gifts, whereas other devices were put in by community, by authority, even by family, who were perhaps either embarrassed by us or even afraid of us, attracting negativity towards them. So, what I really see is that the time for these dark energies is almost up. We have universe has worked with many of us light workers, and a certain group of us were invited to actually be what are called realm light workers and to move around the planet a lot this lifetime in this first part of all of our lives and to absorb dark energy wherever we were and to transmute it through our own nervous systems. This work was completed 2 years ago. And ever since then, the veil that was keeping people from waking up has been at its thinnest yet, I would say. And with the thinning of the veil, some of these devices actually, for the first time, have been pushed up so that they are visible. And so I've been working with many of my clients, just removing these chips from past lives. And of course, they all bleed through to this life. And so clearing the path for this. The dark energies, I think we have about 1 more year where they really can be a nuisance. And then in 2027, the forecast is that the light will really pierce through the remaining clusters of dark energy on the planet and will no longer be at the effect of the kind of energy that fosters greed and corruption and cruelty. So I think I think we're really, really getting there, and we're very close to being on the other side of being, just interfered with, as I call it, with the dark energies.
So, I mean, you've talked about the importance of being grounded and centered, also the resources like yourself to help individuals uh, um, acknowledge these or notice these and clear these things. But I think of it as spiritual hygiene, or just a different type of hygiene of how to acknowledge or notice when you're out of alignment or when you're receiving information or feeling information that is anything to do with harm, you know that it's not to be trusted. Um,
Very
so
well
just
said. Yes. And I think that, we need one of the things we're not taught. And it's a crime, really. I think it's an oversight, and I think it will be corrected. But, we're not taught how, first of all, we're not taught we're energy beings, let alone being taught how to manage one's own energy.
yeah.
So I think, what I learned, in my mid-30s was the importance of keeping my energy field clean, clear, and current. And so you mentioned hygiene. I definitely call it psychic hygiene. And to learn how to clear your own chakras, your own energy centers, to learn how to clear your entire field. These techniques are handily available, and and even as simple as taking an Epsom salt bath and allowing the Epsom salts to clear your field. These are tried and true ways of keeping your field clean, clear, and current. So many of us don't realize how many people we have hanging on to our chakras, feeding off of our energy and light. And there comes a point where it's no longer acceptable.
Mhm.
I call it energetic integrity. Energetic integrity means this is my field. I get to look after it. I
Yeah.
get to have sovereignty over my own field. That's really important. And, I also call it emotional integrity in that, these are my emotions. Just because, you pressed a button and I got angry, I don't get to aim that anger on you. I could actually be grateful for you for letting me know I've got a sore spot there with a lot of anger behind it. I need to be responsible to clear my own emotions in private, harm to none. And then I can talk without my words being bullets, without making you wrong for what's coming up within me. And I can make my requests in a neutral tone that allows you to hear me. So these are all ways of taking care of yourself and protecting your field and working with all these huge issues, but in safety. I would say there's one more, and this is one thing that I really, if you only remember one thing, is knowing your own normal, meaning, you know, I'll talk about mine. When I get up in the morning, I'm happy. You know, that is my norm. That has been my norm my whole life. Even when I was being molested, I had this bubbling up joy. So I have this my normal is happy. When I'm not happy, I'm irritated or frustrated or tired or angry or resentful or any of these other things. That's not normal for me. So I need to look at, why am I not feeling normal? Is someone interfering with my energy? Have I attracted some dark energy beings? What is the reason that I'm no longer in my normal? Now, your normal might not be happy, but it might be okay, like I'm ready for this day. And all of a sudden you feel absolutely dreadful. That's not your normal. So I really encourage people to know their own normal and to use that as a barometer for being able to keep your field in energetic and emotional integrity.
Awesome. So great. I just feel that is so integral to, yeah, safe practices, knowing even just what to do. Yeah, there is, you said we don't get handed a guide on how to navigate this, but there is so much available to us this day and age to help us navigate and figure out how to be true to our own needs. So thank you for that synopsis.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, would you like to speak a little bit to some of the resources that you do have available that can support folks on their journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the easiest thing is, to go to my website, which is Aimée and there's a hyphen between Lyndon and Adams. I'm sure, Megan, you can print that out for them. If you go to my website, you'll find, be willing to kind of putter about because there's all kinds of resources there. Under products, there's heart-centered grounding. It's just $17, but it'll change your life. I mean,
Mhm.
heart-centered grounding changed my life, no question about it. I offer a series of energy management revolution courses, meaning, I did the energy management curriculum and taught it for years live and taught people how to be practitioners live. And now it's all online. And the guides asked me to revise it recently. So we're now calling it the Energy Management Revolution. It's up to date. It's very reasonable. It's a wonderful way to, learn how to work with your guides because all of that is included. Another
Mhm.
set of classes that are online as well are my sacred intimacy work with my partner in life. I've been with my Victor for 20 years, and two of my ascended master guides aligned with us in developing this program that really just demystifies sexuality and allows you to use conscious sexuality as a path to ascension. And it also includes a very important module on healing abuse. And if you didn't want to buy all of these classes, I totally appreciate that. There is another really super reasonable way that is also on my website. You could buy my app, which is called The Spark. And it gives you, for $27 a month, access to all of my online classes, every single one, for as long as you're a subscriber. And the Spark app is unique as well because it offers you monthly challenges, programs, journal prompts. And we've authored with my partner, Jen Fla, a series of books together that, again, are all available on my website. So Aimée, Aimee, Lyndon, Lyndon hyphen Adams, ADAMS.com. And this really, it's interesting. I am thinking about, my life's work, and I'm actually quite proud of being able to share this work. This is really everything I've learned this lifetime, if you think about it. And it's brought me to this most amazing point of my life. I am truly grateful.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to share at this time?
Let's just see if the guides would like to say something. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that what is bubbling up with them is a level of excitement that more people than just a few will be inspired to start to work with them. And, they're sharing that guides, everybody has at least three guides. So everybody has a guide for your feminine side, a guide for your masculine side, and a guardian angel. Everybody. And so, you don't have to be watching this going, oh, I don't have any guides. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And the thing is with guides is you need to give them attention. If you don't give them attention, they think you're not interested. They're your guides, so they're not going to leave your field, but your field is miles and miles wide. And so they actually withdraw to the outer level of your field. So you might feel that you don't have any guides. But if you start calling them in, if you start making an appointment to sit with them or go for a walk with them or talk with them, just open the door. Then you will notice that they're right there. Now, many of us have bigger teams of guides. You might be wondering, well, how does she have 12 and I only have three? No, I'm not saying you only have three. I'm saying everybody has three. So if you have a bigger team, it's almost always around a greater purpose. So guides really love to grow by helping us. So this is a major misconception. We're taught in our 3D world not to be a nuisance, right? Don't keep asking why you're taught as a child. Don't be a nuisance. You're not being a nuisance asking the guides for help. They get to grow by helping you. So that's incredible news for many of us. Also, you might wonder sometimes if you had a very special loved one who passed, is it possible for them to be one of your guides? And the answer is yes, it is. So, we have to give someone who's passed time to work through their own lifetime and to emerge with their next set of goals on the other side. But when they're up here, they're very excited if you invite them in. The other way to use guides is to think about what are the skills and abilities that you really need on this project that perhaps you don't have or don't see that you have at this point. So you can actually invite guides in and build a team around a specific set of needs. There's all different ways of working with guides, but really and truly, I think the biggest misconception is that you're being a nuisance by asking, and that's just simply not true. So my guides are saying, we have one more year of this chaos coming down around us, but take heart because the end is in sight. And there's a really old adage, I think, that really fits here that Maharishi used to say of the transcendental meditation. He used to say, nearer you get,
Mhm.
faster you go. That's a good way to conclude, I think.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'm so grateful again for your time and just you have such a clear way of sharing this information that just lands so warmly. So
Good.
thanks again for having this conversation. And again, I'll share your information as we share this about, but thank
Beautiful.
you so much, Aimée.
Thank you, darling. Thank you so much for requesting, and it was my pleasure to accept. To the first of many.